Hello, hello, hello. Join us once more. This is the second episode of Behind the Music. I'm Tom Bellamy from Losers. This week we have Dan Austin. Dan is a very old friend, and he is my go-to guy, my guru, the maestro, production wizard, and all-round great guy. And he's going to be, we're going to be talking about Lost in Translation, the latest Losers track, which I produced and Dan mixed. And Eddie and Paul are sending love from California and London. Yeah, I just want to say hello to everybody first. Thank you for joining us. I hope everybody's here. So yeah, from your website, I'm just going to give people a little intro to who you are, where you've come from, what you've done. Dan is quite rightly still celebrating his first UK #1 as producer of Dove's album The Universal Want, and his more recent #1 album Sucker Punch, which he produced for You Me at 6, which was released on January the 21st of this year. Dan learned his craft engineering, programming and mixing for producers including Steve Osborne, Paul Corkett, Gil Norton, Flood and John Leckie on a wide variety of projects including the Pixies, B-52s, Biffy Clyro, Maximo Park, AFI and The Coral, to name just a few. He was quickly noticed because of his ability by artists including the Cooper Temple Claws, never heard of them, and Ocean Size, who sought him out for his first solo production opportunities. Other acts, including Cherry Ghost, The Ninth Wave, Slutface, and Massive Attack, followed suit, loving his creativity and inventiveness in the studio. Yeah, so Dan actually was the engineer for the first Cooper Temple Claws album, and we loved him so much. And as it said, as I just wrote there, we got him back for the second album because we just connected. We just were amazed by his energy. And yeah, it's just the most passionate, hardworking man I think I've ever met. And yeah, it was just a love affair, a bromance between 7 people. We locked ourselves in a room and made our second album, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. And I'm sure Dan's been doing that with countless other bands ever since. And yeah, so we've just been friends, and you know, Dan's been pitching in with some Loser stuff, and so he's mixed Lost in Translation. He's also mixed some of the other tracks that you're going to be hearing coming up. And if there's ever an unsung hero, it's the producer behind all these artists and rock stars that, you know, they always get the interviews and get to blow their own trumpets, and you hear about them so much, and you hear less about the producers who weave their magic skills behind the scenes. And I just think it's amazing what you do, and let's hear a little bit from you about that before we get stuck into the track, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, of course it is. Thank you. Well, like, our relationship's been incredible, hasn't it? It's one of those things. Like I do seem to. There's a like with Doves and like with you guys and a few bands where you just have this really special thing and get this connection, and then working together again and again over a long period is, you can just do such incredible things together. Like the journey we've been on, man, it's like what, 20 odd years now.
Yeah, crazy.
And still working together. And yeah, you do get those words. But like you were saying about the record that we did, that was something that I will never experience again. And I don't think that anyone will really. Like, we got given major label, successful band, me, what how old were we then? 22 or whatever.
Yeah.
No idea really what we're doing. Like, all the confidence in the world and all the enthusiasm and creativity, but yeah, they gave us an album budget. We spent it on a barn and filling it with recording equipment and made a record that they didn't hear. And it's still one of my proudest moments, man, that record. It's just like, it's just 7 people going mad, isn't it? And like letting loose. It's a shame those opportunities aren't available now. Like, it wouldn't happen. But I love when I build these relationships with people, man. It's like, it's ace, because I'm always gutted if I don't work with a band again. because you do all the groundwork and the like ice breaking and the teetering around and like figuring out what everyone's strengths are and where they fit, and then to then not continue that for whatever reason. But it's great when you can, because you're like, you're already halfway up the ladder, you know, when you start again. There's, I mean, a lot of being a producer is about people management, and like, you know, being a therapist, I talk about this in one of my questions. It's, you know, it's not just about like being technically proficient. It's just so much around it. And it's the tech, to be honest, is it's not a thing. It's all about people. Like, you know, there's a lot of producers, like old school producers, like in the, you know, original producers, the engineers were guys in lab coats that operated the equipment. They didn't operate any of the equipment. They were like A&R in the songs, writing on the songs, getting the best out of everyone. All those lines have become blurred now, but it's 100% about getting the best out of people. And it's I get to sort of be in a band for a bit with loads of different bands. It's brilliant. It's absolutely amazing to get inside all these, because bands are just, they're like families, the most intense family relationships, it's very special to be allowed in and be a part of it. And when you are, you know, 24 hours a day together in a studio, sat 2 meters apart, it's very intimate. You know all about each other, and you're creating, so you're quite exposed. It's I love it. The amount of fantastic people that I meet and then get to work with and then inspire you, or you inspire them, or whatever. It's like, you know, the gear I'm all about. I love it, but that's not important now. You know, it's about
and you're really with people when they're at their most vulnerable as well, like, you know, really getting things off their chest, and it's really meaningful, isn't it? And from the heart, which is quite a rare thing, you know. It's like it's a fellowship.
Absolutely, people are really exposed, and you've got to be really trusting. But as am I. You know, the amount of terrible ideas or suggestions you make, and it's cool when everyone just doesn't laugh, you know, and you go, okay, cool, on to the next thing, because that's where you get great ideas and creativity. But it's really hard to explain to people, and I wish that I could take so many of my friends and family to like view a session, what actually goes on, because it's just this incredible intense thing between people, and then it's over in a snap. Is the thing that I find. I also have to remind myself that bands recording an album is a very small part of they do an album, then they'll tour, and they're writing, and I have to remind myself of that it's not what they do all the time, because it's what I do all the time. So it's
it's fascinating. It's that's why I love these things so much. And you know, when producers talk about what happened, you know, I just watched one last week about the recording of Heroes, David Bowie, and just to like hear that some of the stories around it, and it's just, I just think it's fascinating. I mean, bands are just bonkers, aren't they? So I've got a few questions here about you, and I mean, I'm sure there's some people listening who are writing music themselves, or interested to hear like any of like tips that you've got or whatever, or some of your experiences. And so I'll just ask you a few questions about that, and then we can talk about what you did in Lost in Translation to make it sound so fantastic, and then we can drop into the session and go through it, and hope that there's no gremlins, but there probably will be. So yeah, I mean, you are a records producer working in the music industry, working with musicians, artists, and rock stars. And I think it was even you that put me onto this quote by Hunter S. Thompson, who said, "The music business is a cruel and shallow money trench, a long plastic hallway where thieves and pimps run free and good men die like dogs. There is also a negative side." So tell us the truth, Dan. Was it a good career choice?
Career choice, I don't know. Lifestyle choice, yeah. Definitely. Yeah, man, it's like I'm so obsessed by music, and I've been so fortunate that like one thing that I knew what I wanted to do when I was quite young, like be in a band, or then I was sort of obsessed by the tech side of it as well. And the thing that really made me decide that was when I went to do my band did our first demo. We were like 14, I think. I went in the studio and I was like, I want that guy's job. That looks sick. And so I knew what I wanted to do. So I had a focus trying to get to that point. And then I've been able to do it and sustain it, which is really hard. But it's just every day I realize how special what I get to do is, and how unusual it is as well. So yeah, great career choice. No, great choice. Yeah.
And how did you get your foot in the door? Because
so I was in sixth form, and then I would have gone on to like a music tech course, or I was trying to get work experience in studios. And I happened to meet the studio manager of a recording studio in Bath, which is near where I live, called Jan Brown, who gave me my first opportunity. Thank you, Jan. And yeah, I met her on a Sunday, and the engineer left on the Monday. So the assistant became the engineer, and she phoned up and went, "Do you want to do evenings and weekends while you're finishing your A-levels?"
Things have changed a lot since those days, haven't they? Because you know, like engineers used to be T-boys and go into studios, and now like anybody in their bedroom can be an engineer and a producer and a mixer and a master if they watch enough YouTube videos. And I mean, everything has changed so much in the last 20 years, and you know, people are making records in their bedrooms. And I mean, how does that affect you as a producer?
I think it's amazing. Like I used to borrow the 4-track cassette recorder from the school music department on weekends and stuff. So that was like how I sort of learned about multi-track recording. And then when I started at the studio, which was 97, 98, it was 2-inch tape machines. There was no computers computers running MIDI, but no digital audio recording in the studio. So all Pro Tools and all of this digital recording and stuff has come up as I've been working in the industry. But the fact that you can, you know, you can make a beat, you can make a hit on here, man. You've like, you know, you've got multi-track recording software. Everyone's got it. It's available and it's there. So the level playing field thing about that is amazing, because it used to be that people just couldn't get access to that equipment. Or like me, you started as a T-boy, unpaid, literally making tea and cleaning up and stuff, and then you worked your way through. So the fact that people can do all this stuff now at home and learn it without it being like an exclusive club it's just fantastic. It's had a dent on the industry, obviously, like with anything, if suddenly everyone can do it themselves. But there's still roles that are needed. Like I think producers, I guess I would say that, but people can record and stuff at home, and you can learn that stuff. But a producer's job is sort of that experience and having done stuff before, and to make comment on that, you know. So I think it's just opened it up to people. It's super exciting that people can, and it's another way of creating.
You know? It just speeds up like the whole process of people just learning now, and like new artists coming through and new producers, and some of the sounds, it's just like, it's crazy.
Man, like people with these fresh ideas have now got the tech to do it when they're at their, you know, they're like really flowing with creativity, and also an element of naivety as well, which I wish I still like. Again, like, you know, going back to what we did, that second record, man, you know, there's a lot of like stuff that I wouldn't do now because I wouldn't be confident enough to do it, because at the time you don't know it's wrong. So I mean, so being able to get that out, man, it's just, I love it, man. And the way we work, you know, you're in Berlin, I'm here, I mix on the laptop, you send me files across. It's like, it's ace, you know, without having to fly about and spend loads of money. It's great.
So for someone starting up, what is the most important thing you think someone needs in their home recording setup? A good mic, good speakers, or good plugins? Do you have any view?
Ooh, interesting. It depends, I guess. If you're plugins don't matter. The stock ones in anything that you use are fine. So like, you can mix records with those, no problem. If you're wanting to go more into mixing, then monitoring if you're more writing and a performer, then probably the mic to get your ideas down better. Yeah, it depends what you're trying to do, really. But to be honest, everything now sounds good. Like just sort of mid-range prosumer speakers and stuff. All the mics and stuff sound really great. The main thing is to not get bogged down in technology and just keep going at stuff, because I used to get frustrated with not being able to get things sounding how I wanted them to sound, and sometimes put it down to technology, but it wasn't. It was just not having the experience. So whatever you've got, just work on it and work on it and work on it and keep practicing, and then you get the results you want.
You're quite right. I mean, when I was at my mum and dad's, when I was a teenager or whatever, I just had a little tape machine, you know, one of those old school things with just a record button on it. And I just had an audio cassette tape, and I'd put it in, and I just get ideas down all the time. And I've got tapes and tapes and tapes of just ideas. And, you know, that was enough actually. And I guess like the modern equivalent of that is having GarageBand or whatever, where I've had people come up to me and say, oh God, I'm so sorry. I've done something on GarageBand, you know, it doesn't sound very good, but like, you know, to me and especially to you, like hearing these things, like, you know, you can see past all of the technology or whatever, and it's, you're just looking for spirit and vibe, I guess, right?
That's such an important point, because if you're writing, what you're getting it down on doesn't matter. Like people, I've definitely seen it now with bit like that like apologetic thing. Oh man, it doesn't sound very good. It's like, I'm not employing you as a mixer. Like that's a whole different thing. If to hear a song, it doesn't matter. You just need to get it down. And like I've seen people not finish brilliant ideas because they're worried about the snare sound, which just doesn't matter at that point. Honestly, for me, I've just been working with someone recently, and he first approached me by sending me just him and an acoustic guitar on an iPhone, and it's like the purest form of a song, and it's actually sort of the best way to hear it at first. The thing is song as well, man, as we both know, song, nothing else matters. If you've got a good song, you can record it anywhere, you can mix it wherever. The tech side of it just doesn't matter. So don't get bogged down with that stuff.
You've done stuff for me before, Keep Time Clause, and I mean Paul and I did a record with you for Young Legionnaire, where it was recorded in a really big room, and you know, the space sort of dictated how it sounded, and it was just like humongous. And I guess for you that's sort of maybe easier because you're just playing with the vibe of the room. And you know, like where I am now is a very dead production mix room, and you know, I do a lot of my writing in here, and for Lost in Translation, you know, I did a lot of the recording in here, and it's pretty vibeless, really. It's like, you know, how do you get, what have I said here? It's you've mixed it to sound like it's on a cloud floating around on a hazy afternoon somewhere in Dreamtown. How do you do that? I guess like it's harder because there's more sort of more places you can take it, because if something's completely dead, you can be like, oh well, I can stick it in that room, I can stick it in that room, and maybe you can let us know how you pick a vibe.
Normally, to be honest, like it's like we Lost in Translation, it was all very dead and like 60s drum sound, wasn't it, that you sent me? So I don't ever think I thought I'm going to blow this up and make it big, in the same way that something that has been recorded in a big room, you're probably not going to then try and make that really small. I was actually working with someone recently, an assistant asked me, why do you record the drums first? And I hadn't ever really thought about it, because you do, but I was like, okay, well, it's because it dictates the tempo for everyone to play to, and also it's the first thing that goes down, and then everything else is really shaped around the drum sound. So I think the rest of the recording sort of comes from that. It's rare that I take a drum sound and completely smash it apart. You know, like change the ambience of it hugely.
Okay,
From where it was. Because I guess did you have that vision in your head for Lost in Translation? It was going to be this like powdery sort of 60s dry thing, or not?
I mean, maybe this is a good time for me to start talking about it, because like, so this song for me, like, you know, the way I see it, it's always completely different. I mean, I think somebody asked a question, there was a fan question from Dimitri, do you have a regular way to start a song? For example, do you start with the melody or the harmony, or you're just jamming with instruments to generate some ideas? And, you know, I think you know from being in studios and working with bands, it's whatever works really. And for this song, for Lost in Translation, I came into the studio one day and I think I was just really angry and confused and a bit lost and just feeling really just disconnected from the world. And I just went on a splurge with some lyrics, which I don't normally do. And I just kept on writing and writing and writing, and just, it was a bit mad actually. And I didn't really know what the music was going to be. And it was normally, I mean, Fisher from Cooper Temple Claws influenced me quite a lot, because he always said he's this amazing poet and lyricist, and he's like, I hold him in such high regard. And we would jam songs and then he would get a vibe for how it sounded, and then he would write the lyrics afterwards. And that just seemed like a really cool way to do it. And that's how I've always done stuff, and I've done stuff like that with Paul as well, and it's just worked really well. But in this case, it was just the lyrics. I just needed to get something off my chest, and it did cause a few problems, because I think I'm just so used to doing it the other way around. I just didn't know what musically was going to work well, and I just wanted to run through the journey of where the song came from, and then we're gonna just run through the track. So yeah, this first demo was, I don't know, it's got a bit of a Chemical Brothers vibe to it.
My jeans, which hat should I put on today? I see my reflection, I recognize those eyes, those deadbeat eyes that used to spark. You said that made you.
So totally different to where we ended up. But you know, that's where I started. You've got to start somewhere, haven't you? I just felt like the music was a bit too ferocious. It wasn't really fitting with the sentiment. So I tried something else. And I mean, this again, completely different.
Recognize those eyes, those seasick eyes that used to spark. You said that made you feel alive. They can't misplace them with the best friends I could ever have.
I could not be more different. I think I'm a very confused individual. But through this version, I did stumble across this section, which was a drop section.
Find me,
and I remember thinking at the time, like, that's the best bit actually. And I didn't know at the time, but that was going to make a lovely little outro at some point. So fast forwards, and I mean, I'm lost again. I'm lost. I'm making a track that's, I think this is like the Massive Attack version. That sound there is actually the sound of my fridge door closing. I mean, I was so lost that I decided to sample the fridge door closing.
I'm always here, mate, if you want to call me.
I'm lost in translation, I'm lost at sea, I'm not the only one.
And I thought, you know what, that could be anything. I'm not feeling that either. I mean, it's all right. I mean, there's great moments in all of these. I mean, after that, I'm not sure what happened next. I think it might have been this version. Which was the electro version, which I've actually thought, you know what, that would make a really nice live version. So that's in fact what I did the other day. I used that as a live version, and I mean, I love that version, but I wasn't feeling it. So after all of that, I'm not sure what inspired it really, but I needed something to support the vocals and make it really connect. And eventually I did this version.
I'm lost in translation, I'm lost at sea, I'm not the only one. That means my clothes, my shoes, my shades, which hat should I put on today?
And I thought, oh, that's pretty good actually. And it was the first time I stumbled across the chorus as it is now, and I just thought, wow, that's pretty powerful actually. And I played it to Eddie and Paul, and both of them were just like, whoa, okay, I'm feeling that. And that was that. And you know, it was a journey, but once we got there, it was just like, yeah, we knew we had something special. And that's the thing, it's got to be, it's, as you know, it's got to be a connection, hasn't it? It's like
100%. It's fascinating seeing all those versions. I think I'd heard a few of them, but because I remember when you sent it to me, I can't remember I was tempted to get the email, but whatever, but it was like, you were really excited about it. And then I remember putting it on wherever I was working and just it was one of those, you know when you've got one, don't you? Yeah. But at the same time, also throughout that process, it's like, it's amazing the little nuggets that can be suddenly like, like a mid-late becoming an outro, or a first verse becoming a chorus or whatever. I'm just amazed at how you managed to go through so many completely different versions.
I think I'm a little bit mad, Dan. I gotta be feeling it, it's just like with whatever I do, and the thing is, if it's not going well, I'll keep going until I get it. And I think I'm quite lucky in that respect. There's lots of people that will just sort of give up, but well, there's that dogged determination, isn't there? If you know you're onto something, then like that thing. But I do it when I mix and I do it when I record. It was Steve Osborne that I used to work with a lot, just was like, would scrap everything. Like 2 days recording, wipe the tape. I'm like, ready? Yep, wipe it, and it's just gone. And then you start again, and it actually saves time in the creative process. Yeah. So I mean, like like you've done there, just going like, okay, that's not it. So start again and do it again and again. It's like I love that. Just seeing stuff fall apart. Then when you've got you can see the end. Then just like hacking at it because you know it's there. Yeah. And the moment it connects with you, it's like that's for me is like job done, because I've done so many things in the past, and with Cooper's as well, where it's just like suddenly you're just trying to please too many people, and you get lost in it, and maybe you settle on the version because other people like it or whatever. But at the end of the day, you've got to be the one stood on stage playing it, and I want to be able to play every song to my friends, my family, to anyone, and if they like it, it's a bonus. But for me, I want to feel like really, really proud, and I do with everything. I wouldn't release it otherwise. Yeah, and it has to be like that. Yeah, and so maybe let's just have a run through of the track then, and maybe we can talk about some of the actual stems.
Sure.
Okay, let's just mute that.
I'm lost in translation, I'm lost at sea, I'm not the only one. That leaves my clothes, my shoes, my shades, which hat should I put on today?
So, the drums were actually done in this room, and as we said earlier, pretty vibeless, but you've really managed to make them sound just dreamy and big and just awesome. They just fit perfectly. And I mean, the main other thing about the start of this track is the bows. I mean, I think in Shout last time we did this webinar, I talked about me playing both guitar. I did it in Cooper Temple Claws, and the drums with the acoustic guitar and the bows, it was just the vibe. And same thing with Shout. It's like, we did this with Cooper's, didn't we? If you put a bit of organicness, like with the bows, with some plastic strings.
100%. It's got because it's you playing it, isn't it? I was gonna say about the drums, Bob, in that you because they were almost samples, weren't they? The kick and the snare. Yeah. So it was very, very rigid. But the thing that made it work and not sound programmed was the live hat that you put over the top of it.
Yeah.
There's an overdub, isn't there, which is just you playing a hat on its own, and that's the thing that made it sit together.
Yeah, Yeah, there was also, I put a shaker in there actually as well, which is, I mean, which is very, very subtle. But if you hear that,
it gives it human as well, and it gives it length, and travel,
and all those little subtleties just to give it a bit of soul.
What otherwise would have just been essentially a program loop, 100% quantized, which would have had no feel. All of that stuff. It's like the bow thing, man. Just the movement in it over strings, and like I'm obsessed with percussion. I do it, like, just put it on everything because it makes it sound like a record, and you can make something feel like 5 or 6 BPM slower or faster by getting little things to move around in between. And like you said, you don't really hear it. You'd never go, oh, that's the song with the shaker on. Do you know what I mean? But like you feel it. It's man.
So I mean, in terms of like what's actually going on, it's quite simple really, this track, isn't it? I mean, a lot of it is driven by the vocal, and I know that I did quite a lot of layering on this. I actually kept the original sort of spit take or guide take, and it was layered up, and maybe you can talk us through like what you did to affect the vocal, because it was it's not very dynamic, isn't it? And I can imagine like for a vocal that's like, it's almost talked, isn't it? And when you're not like really thrashing some compressors or whatever, that maybe it's more difficult to sit.
Absolutely, because there's not sorry, I've just lost my screen. If someone's like singing out, you've got energy, and you've got dynamic, and you've got brightness because of it being loud. Like you said, it's almost a spoken vocal. So to get that clear, which if you just make it dead bright and take all the throat out of it, it just sounds thin and spitty and unemotive. So it was hard, but all of it's like you're saying, there's not much in it, but everything that is in this song sits really well. Like the drum sounds really great and the acoustics really great, and it was the same with the vocal, all the layering. For things like that are difficult to get through in a track, then double tracking is a way of getting them through, because it adds bigness and width and like size, I guess, doesn't it? Although you still, as a listener, you still hear it as one person, and you that's the trick, isn't it? Like going from exactly being small to sounding really widescreen by just layering up and making things big in the stereo picture. And I mean, you've always been great at that. And like, let's just listen to this lead vox.
I'm lost in translation, I'm lost at sea, I'm not the only one. Are these my clothes, my shoes, my sheets? Which hat should I put on today? See my reflection.
When that mix came back, it just felt so crystal clear. It just sat so well on the mix.
You can hear how quiet you've delivered that. You can hear your mouth noise.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you saying like actually getting a vocal sound is almost one of the getting a vocal to sound natural is one of the hardest things to do, because it's not simply just putting a voice up to a mic, because you get all the little noises from your mouth and the breath and the P's and the it's
absolutely, it's one of the most difficult things to record, because it is air moving so close to a mic. That thing of to make it sound like someone's singing next to you coming out of a pair of speakers is, like you said, one of the hardest things to do. But when you get it like that, again, it's that emotion, isn't it? Because it does sound like you're whispering in my ear when you hear it.
And that, I mean, that vocal there, it was like the guide vocal that I did, and I remember like sometimes I try and beat it or whatever, but when you're actually in the moment and you've got the idea and you put it down, sometimes that's just it. And it's like, like going back to what we were saying earlier with technology and whatever, it's fantastic actually to just be able to move things a little bit here and there and maybe tune it a bit, because like you said, like that is the vibe, and it just works. And everything I did after wasn't quite good, or it just didn't connect, so
the amount of guide vocals I use in records, like all the time. The first take as well. The first take where it's like, right, let's just check your headphones, and it's not. You're not tricking someone. You just you genuinely just take, and you're like, well, that's that. Then you didn't have 5 takes, nowhere near as good. Great, got it.
So let's move on to the bridge section. That's still pretty much the same. I mean, we've got some BVs kicking in there just to layer up the vocals, just to make it sound a little bit more dreamy. There's lots of drones in this track. I mean, the guitar as well. It's like, I think I did it for Shout as well. This is me like cheating. I mean, this is, you know, these are just some of my tricks. Like, I will often just tune a guitar with a drone on 2 or 3 strings, if not the whole thing to one tuning. So like in this bridge, for example, you can hear. It's being backed up with the BBs there. Okay, so chorus world. Got to mention this little guy here. Oh, there he is. There's a timpani in there, boys. I remember working with Dan, with Cooper Temple Claus, the singer, actually said that we needed to get a timpani drum for the second record, and it got delivered with was it an 808? I think we used the 808 for New Toys.
Yeah.
The timpani drum didn't really make it,
much
did
to
it?
your manager's resistance at the time. But you boys, do you really need a real timpani? Yes, we do. 100% we do.
That's hilarious. It was hilarious. Like, we just, I mean, why did we need that?
It wouldn't go through the door. Do you remember? It wouldn't go through the door.
Yeah.
Do you remember? We had to record it in like a workshop next door. It wouldn't go through the door.
And I don't think it ever made it onto anything. And the thing is, we could have just got a sample from somewhere. Like, anyway, he just wanted it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? Exactly. So what we got coming up here? We've got I've written pitch shift on this because you've done a little cheat. These are nice, these little things. See, I listened to this day and was like, oh, hello. The piano. Did you put a pitch shifter on that?
Yeah, probably. I put pitch shifters on loads of stuff because it makes it cut without it having to be loud.
It's beautiful. You've said that before, haven't you? About like opening up harmonies that weren't there before. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I love doing that. It's a bit like it's a similar thing to the drone thing in that it's just it's harmonic, but like, to get that to cut in the track, I would have had to make it very bright and loud. Yeah. So you add an octave on top of it. It also makes it sound very otherworldly.
Yeah.
For some styles of music like this, it's like it works. I love octave up stuff and.
Yeah. I use that a lot as well. Actually, it just gives it a character, doesn't it? That you just like, what is that? And it just makes it interesting.
It's like angels to me. It's that like ethereal. I don't know. It makes me want to put my hands in the air when I hear octave stuff. You know, I don't know why that is. I have that reaction to big octaves, but it makes me do that. It's a good energy.
Yeah. So. Yeah. The way that those chords work with the vocal, I really was so happy when that came across. By me, we'll rewrite history. Mixed like an absolute legend.
But that arrangement is class, man. Like those inversions of the chords, because I think you do that a lot. You know, again, this like getting more into writing side of stuff, like. And like really looking at inversions of stuff, there are different ways that you can play chords to make them feel completely different. Yeah. And that harmonic you've got in that is just like, that's the emotion in the track. That is that stuff that gets you, even if you don't hear it fully in the song. It's that those harmonics working together, man. It's it's lovely, man. It's really beautiful.
It just supports the sentiment, doesn't it? And that's what I was looking for the whole time. It was just like I needed something that was really emotional, and then when I hit that, I was just like, oh god, I could feel my heart drop, you know. Dimitri's also said, do you guys have a formal music education?
I don't.
I mean, yeah, so, and I don't, well, I'll talk for me. I actually learned the trumpet to begin with, and then I played the trumpet in an orchestra and a wind band and a swing band. And because of that, I learned a lot about harmony and arrangement and, yeah, it just stuck with me. And then I actually I did a year of music A level after deciding that I didn't really want to be a maths teacher, and it was the best decision I ever made. And yeah, so I did have a basic understanding, and I think that helps, like with anything that you do, doesn't it? It's like if
Absolutely.
you want to.
I wish that my musical theory was better. I was working on something a while ago with the session was being filmed, and it was really interesting. One of the guys asked me, he was like, "Do you play?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Because I sort of, as a producer, you talk people through not how to play their instrument, but better ways of getting the thing you want out of their instrument. So I have a real understanding of it, but can't actually do it myself." But I don't know. You've got a real sense of pitch and harmony, though, haven't you? Like,
I've always really loved
a completely different way than I think most people do.
Yeah, I just love string arrangements. It just makes me really happy. I really spend a lot of time trying to get as much emotion. Like Fisher in Cooper's Simple Clause, he always said to me, like, every word has to count, you know? Yeah. And that really stuck with me. And it's the same with me with my string arrangements. It's like I spend a really, really long time making sure that every note really has a place, because, you know, you can add a load of strings on top of each other and it will have less of an effect than if you have 4 notes maybe that are really placed properly so that you can feel movement. And I mean, actually, like in this second bridge, and I sort of wish you could hear it a bit more, but the movement, I love. It's my favorite bit of the song. So it's this bit. That just builds so nicely into the chorus. It's just so emotional.
It's goosebumps, man. It's like you said, one like cello changing the bass note under a chord can just like make I don't know, just hit you really hard, can't it?
Yeah. So now we hit the second chorus, we start hearing Mr. Xylophone. I know the xylophone, well, if I can remember correctly, you absolutely detest in mixes because they're just...
I love them as an instrument, but it's one of the most transient, piercing sounds. So you'll have it in the studio and not be able to hear it, and then you'll get it at home or hear it on radio, and it's all you can hear. They are very, very, very hard to mix, but...
There are just certain things, aren't there, that just are very difficult to sit in a mix, and you have to turn them up so much to hear them, and then suddenly they're just taking over, and that's all. Yeah, I mean,
just filling frequencies. Absolutely.
So maybe this can be on like a remix. Anyway, I wanted to have him in there. I always...
It's lovely. Because it's hard to mix, you shouldn't not have it in there. You know.
Yeah.
It's lovely. They're beautiful. I love them, like glocks and xylophones and celestes and all of those sort of sounds. Again, they're like really ethereal, aren't they?
Yeah.
But they're just a pain to mix. But you know, that's my job.
Yeah. I mean, this track has got quite a sort of a retro feel to it, hasn't it? And like, actually, yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, like, there's that Nico, Velvet Underground and Nico track, which I just love with the xylophone in it. And while I think of it, actually, I don't know whether this was just like in the back of my mind somewhere or whatever, but like inspiration-wise, there was this Beach Boys track called Let's Go Away. I don't know whether you know it. Like, you know, where they just, you know, the Beach Boys, they're just sort of like, no, we're not going to have a groove. We're just going to hit some toms in the background. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, drummer's just like, yeah, not today. I'm just going to do a bit of this, you know? And I love that.
If the drummer's got a shred for 5 minutes, then great. If the song needs it, if it needs a little boom, boom, ba, you know?
Yeah. So we're into our drop now. Oh, here we go. The sun is shining. Oh, look how it's shining. So lyrically, this was really quite late on, actually, because I think yeah. I mean, the version that I had, that I almost sent to you, so that was that, and it was like, well, that's not sort of spine tingling, is it? It's just like that's like, I've kind of run out of ideas, isn't it?
So I remember hearing that and being like, it's great. I think the version you've got, like when you changed it, but I know it's difficult. I have this a lot with people. Like, I'm like, I love that. Do you know what I mean? And then, but this is the big difference between producer and writer, isn't it? You're like seeing beyond that, you know,
Yeah,
and then being like, no.
I was just like, I mean, I just wanted this sort of hope, because the song, like lyrically, it's sort of like, it dwells a lot on you know, isolation and feeling disconnected and just wanting to sort of change systems and the world that we live in and feeling just like, I don't know, helpless, I guess. And then the end of it, I don't know, that day it was just like the sun was just blasting through the sky and I was just feeling pretty good, you know, and it was just like, oh man, this just needs a bit of hope at the end, you know. And I just stumbled across it. I think you'd sent me some, Dan has sent me so many amazing little toys and things to play with. I have to just say thank you so much, because I don't know whether I'd be here. Maybe I shouldn't be. But you really helped me with beats and samples and the loads more goodies folder that you gave me. And just before this, you gave me some string samples again, which really didn't. And it had I think it had the timpani on it, and I just sort of started trying them around in this section, and it just sounded great.
I'm lost in translation. I'm lost in translation. I'm lost in translation.
Little spring reverb on there. I know you're a fan of the spring reverb.
I don't much like reverb unless it's spring or big massive churches. I'm not really bothered about anything in between. Springs are lovely, man.
Yeah. We've got the old CS5 keyboards. Smashing away as well. Oh yeah, I've got to ask you about this, because I think at the end, that's the top end, and then at the end we hit him with like the bottom end, and it sounds like you've done something really sexy here. Oh.
I do it.
Oh.
It's dirty, isn't it?
That's dirty. That's lovely.
Yeah, it would have been distortion, man. To get it's like that octave thing to get sounds like that. Like
I think that's got an octave on it, hasn't it? There's that little altar boy pedal from Sound Toys, which I use a lot. Because you said you used it a lot.
Do you know what? That's one of those.
I'm always trying to get tips off Dan, and just like, oh, what are you doing now? You're doing all right, okay. Where do I get that from?
Them, man. That's one of those, you know, those things that you're like, how did I make records without this before? That is one of those things I'm like, I don't know what I used to do without it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, there's a lot of go-to things, isn't it? The Sound Toy stuff, the little altar boy and Decapitator, like I just
and Echo. I've been using Echo Boy for years, man. It's just great. It just sounds brilliant. Love it.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
And then we're into our outro. There's something funny going on there. Don't know what that is. So here we've got our little Beach Boys drums in the background. Mr. Tim.
Very good.
Love it. And yeah, the bass has just been very subtle the whole way through. Eddie's Music Man bass, beautiful guitar. That
is that what that is?
Yeah,
that's lovely, man.
He's not doing anything special. He's a dungeon master. Just doesn't need any attention in this track. And oh, this guy's quite cheeky. This is this Magnus thing, which somebody chucked out on the street and I picked up, and I didn't use for 10 years. I thought it was broken, and it turned out I just hadn't opened the little the flap on it to let the sound out. So I don't know. Anyway,
it's a little reed organ, right?
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah, it's lovely that. And then the trumpet, which I did play myself. I do struggle these days with the trumpet, but you know, you could just do your best, don't you? So that's got some cheeky distortion on, and it sounds like maybe a phase. Has it got a phase?
Yeah, I think it's got a chorus on it. So I was just thinking that you said like struggling about playing it or whatever. If that was played by like session players and it was super perfect and recorded on really posh microphones, it wouldn't fit the track.
No, well, that's it, isn't it?
The fact it's not played perfectly,
yeah,
is what adds to it, and then the distortion just gathers it all together. And I actually, as you're going through these stems, I'm so enjoying you going through this, mate, by the way. But I think I've put flipping phaser or chorus on everything, haven't I?
I did, yeah. I was going to say there's quite a lot, but then that's nice, isn't it? It's just like that sort of.
But it's everything in the same space, then, isn't it? You know, that's the thing with using common effects on a mix, is that it's a bit of a lost art actually. And I keep meaning to do a mix where I do it, because I've got my desk in front of me, but I don't think you guys will be able to see it. But you know, you've got 4 effect sends. And when we used to mix on SSLs or whatever, you had like 6. So you have like, you know, short delay, long delay, big reverb, short reverb, maybe a distortion or a chorus or whatever. And so a little bit of each signal, you know, your vocal or your snare, whatever, went to amounts of that. And it did give it this cohesiveness. And I keep meaning, I know a lot of people do, but to set up my Pro Tools sessions like that and do a mix like that, because it definitely gives it a glue.
Yeah,
and a gel. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's interesting hearing this actually. I think I've sort of done that on this, but probably not in that way. But
yeah. Well, it's good to try out different ways of doing stuff like that. You sort of get set in your way, don't you? And then actually, if you just did that, suddenly you just get loads more inspiration from.
Or like that thing, old things. Because I often have my flavor of the month way of mixing or miking something or whatever, and then you go, hang on, I did that for years and it was cool, and then you do it and you're like, oh man, it's like, forgot about that, or these mics or whatever. It's like, it's good to change things up, man, all the time. I do it between songs and albums, like take the drums down and put them back up, like just why not, you know?
Because it's a ball ache.
It is a ball ache.
A massive mic and up a drum kit, Jesus. Well, unless you're me and you just put one mic in front of it and hope for the best, and just stick some samples in. It's like whatever works, isn't it? It's like you said with the trumpets, or like, I don't know. I mean, we had a broken ride cymbal for so long on our drum kit, and I don't know, it's just what it is, isn't it? It's just like
it is what it is. That's the thing. You can make a record on anything, and also you're then the sound of the song is being, as with whatever you record on, whether it's a 4-track or an iPhone or GarageBand or in Abbey Road, the way it's been recorded and the way you're hearing it back is then shaping your next decision. It's you know, the environment and the process then adds to the song. I love that thing, man, of it all unfolding, and the things like you're saying, you know, we've got Broken Rising with the album, cool, we've got Broken Rising, but that's the sound of the record. You know?
And it really doesn't matter how you do it, it's just what comes out of the speakers at the end of the day, and if it gets your foot tapping. We got some BVs at the end here. I think this is possibly the lowest I can sing. I might be able to go one note lower.
I'm lost in translation. I'm lost in translation. I'm lost in translation. I'm lost.
So we got a bit of Welsh baritone going on there. And what else have we got?
Hey, look, the sun is shining. The sun is shining. Hey, look, the sun is shining. The sun is shining.
So I was just going for it that day. I didn't want to stop, really. I was just having too much fun.
But it's lifting, like you said, isn't it? That was the point of that section. Because I remember that being really difficult to mix, because you had a very specific idea about the balances. And it was, you know, all of those things could be placed anywhere, but it was that thing you kept saying about, like, this is the sunshine bit after the gloom, and it had to feel a certain way.
I was inspired. I mean, this vocal here is very sort of spiritualized. I think you can see it. I've got it on there, spiritualized influence. I was obsessed with that record when I was younger, and I've always sort of wanted to do that type of thing. You know, he just used so many orchestral sounds, didn't he? And just had that sort of it was so euphoric and just
it had that. I think we both have that. I don't know what it is about certain people, but we both are drawn to those sort of sounds, aren't we? Which I think is why we've worked together for so long. And he definitely did. Jason Pierce definitely did that as well. That beautiful layered stuff, like Sigur Rós, all that stuff that you know, the big washy beautifulness.
All right, let's just play the track to the end, shall we?
Sure.
I know you love a good fade, Dan.
Man, they get a bad rep. Fade outs get a bad rep. People think it's that people can be bothered to write an ending for the song. That just makes it sound like it's going on forever.
Oh,
you're going down the highway. Like, I'm a big. I don't know if was there anything dynamic in that one, because I like everything fades, but certain things start coming back up.
Yeah.
Which I really like. Yeah, no, man, fade ins and fade outs can be. I love the fact you think it's still going on. That's my thing. Like, you've gone into this world and then it's faded out, and it could just be continuing forever somewhere.
Yeah.
I like it, man.
I love it. All right, there's a couple more questions we have here. Will there be a physical release for Lost in Translation? Yes, I hope so. What happened to the EP that you were promoting in 2018? Well, all those songs that were going to come out on that EP will be coming out this year, and the plan is that we will just be releasing a song every 6 weeks. Dan has mixed some of these songs. There's some other people that have mixed them as well, and we'll be releasing them digitally, and then the plan is to make an album at the end of it, to have something physical, which I think would be nice. And we're just gonna crack on. And so, Dan, do you have anything else you want to say? I've
thoroughly enjoyed this. We should do this more often. It's really nice.
I think we should do it again.
Really lovely chatting about it. It's really lovely going through the stems as well, because you don't often get to go through all of those bits and hear it like that. It's just like,
it's nice to be objective, isn't it? Because when you're actually in it, it can be quite it can be quite stressful, can't it? Like, trying to get everything to work together, and you never really do get that opportunity to sort of sit back and listen to it objectively. No,
and had I heard those stems the day after I mixed it, I would have picked holes in everything. You know, I would have found 1,000 things wrong with it. So it's really interesting to think about your own work as well. Doing these things I really like, talking about it, because sometimes you don't actually there's certain questions you go, okay, I actually don't really know why I do that, and then you think about it. It's really, really interesting. Nice to hang out as well, mate. You know,
it's very nice to hang out. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you again soon. And thank you to everyone who joined us. And we'll be back for another one of these in 6 weeks. So there'll be some announcements tomorrow if you're watching this live, for a new track maybe. So but otherwise, massive thank you to Dan Austin. I love you very much. Keep being you, and
likewise, man. Likewise, thank you.
Bye.
See ya.
I'm lost in translation, I'm lost at sea, I'm not the only one. I fix my clothes, my shoes, my sheets, which hat should I put on today? See my reflection, I recognize those eyes, those CC eyes. It used to spark you, said that made you feel alive. Smile. or should I go? I just don't know. Is